And it's all good, I think.
Very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once. Welcome back to the Burning Boat Show episode...
Oh...
something. We are back. It has been a little while. We took a little hiatus. 2 weeks off, maybe 3. A lot has happened. I felt actually kind of good about taking a little bit of time off and gathering a little bit of stuff to talk about. I feel like I was just kind of rambling at some point in the last episodes. So we're back, and we've got an exciting episode, and we've got 6 exciting points, and we're gonna get through them.
All
Do you
right.
have anything to say?
This show is made possible by our sponsors on Patreon.
Thank you
If you
so
wanna
much.
help us out and make this show continue like it is, you can click the link below.
Alrighty.
Thanks, everyone.
So I think the main thing that has happened, not the main thing, but the first thing that kind of happened since maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, was we put out a screener, a fine cut screener of Boris and Johan, and we got like 18 people to watch it and fill out a survey.
I think the last you heard from us was the survey had been put out, and we hadn't looked at any of them yet, so we're in this weird stage where we knew that people were watching the movie, and we were getting little bits of people's opinions and thoughts and comments, but we didn't have like a full thing, so we were both a little like
didn't know what was going to happen, and not that many people had responded at that time, and it was like, fuck, is this even fucking worth it? But it was worth it. Long story short, but I'm amazed that first of all, so many people actually completed the survey. There was like, you can kind of look up the stats, and the average time of filling it out was like 40 minutes, which means the survey was way too fucking long.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with people like writing
a lot
paragraphs and paragraphs about what they thought.
I think it's also because we had very broad questions. It wasn't like we had we had 1 or 2 specific things where like, okay, we need to know like a yes or no, did you get this kind of thing. But then a lot of it was like, we're very unsure about this whole thing. So it kind of left it open to people writing more than just like, yep or no.
What was really helpful, I think usually people would go to a movie theater, you hand out a one sheet, a piece of paper, and the paper sort of indicates how much you should write.
Right.
How many lines there are on the paper.
Yeah, there's no
Maybe something
room.
about it being online, people were just like, I can write as much as I want, which I loved, was great.
Yeah, it was helpful.
But I also wonder if it stopped some people from doing the survey, maybe because it felt too long, or who knows, because you can also kind of see how many people started this survey and didn't finish it, which I don't know the numbers on that, but there were a couple. Anyways, we got the survey information back. I think it's one of the most useful things we've done so far.
Yeah.
I've never done it before.
No, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely crushed my soul and lifted me up at
All
the same
time. It was a weird experience.
Yeah, I felt like I was completely manic.
I filmed when we were looking through the survey.
Yeah.
Which I wonder what that's like.
Yeah. I think at that point, well, there was kind of stages. I went through stages of calling people and Skyping people and having one-on-ones with people and having them kind of explain whether they liked it, whether they didn't like it, what they liked, what they didn't like, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was really difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's face-to-face. It's also you're not trying to defend yourself or anything. You just kind of sit there, listen to what people say. If they really like it, you try to not get too excited. And if they really don't like it, you try not to get too down, right? Kind of try to take the middle and say, okay, we got to take all the information and kind of see how it... Once it was in the survey and it was kind of anonymous, it felt much better for me. You know?
Yeah. And I feel like it just made everything clearer because, like you said, if you were just talking to one person, they happen not to like it, it's easy to start thinking that that must mean that everything they're saying is right and that these things are wrong about the movie. And then
Yeah.
you speak to someone else and they're like, oh, but I loved that part. And then you're like, oh,
Right.
well, which one is it then?
Yeah.
Like, what's the right
Yeah.
answer, if there even is such a thing? But
Yeah.
having all of it gathered together made it very clear that like majority wins kind of in terms of what we would take from it. You know, if enough people
Yeah.
said the same thing or enough people didn't say the same thing, it was like, okay, well, that's an indicator.
Well, that was the surprising thing, is that you think, okay, these people are watching a film that's an hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's going to be all over the fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't like this part at minute 15. I like this part at minute 30. This character works for me. This doesn't work. It was so strange how it is like there is this group consciousness almost of where people were saying the exact same parts of the film, saying things about the exact same parts of the film, which really then made you know, if all the people were confused about this one thing, or if all the people liked this one thing, or if all, I was very surprised by how uniform kind of all the data was at the end. Of course, there's like small tangents here and there, but overall it was, that's what was helpful about it. I didn't really have to be like, oh shit, there's this like all over the place.
Well, that was our main
opinions.
worry, right? That we'd get it and it would be even more unclear than when we did this, than we started.
Right.
Because that was why we wanted to do the survey, because we felt like we couldn't see any longer what was working and what wasn't.
Right.
So we needed other people to say it for us. And if it all came back and it was just as mixed, it would be even more like,
yeah,
oh God.
Yeah.
But it was very clear what to be done. I mean, we almost like in a couple of hours afterwards, for the most part, came up with everything that needed to change.
Yeah, I think the big kind of thing that came out of it was we had edited a story into the film that wasn't originally there. It was sort of pieced together in post.
Oh, it's just crazy to think about now.
Right. And although people understood it, everyone felt like they didn't actually know what it was.
They weren't very confident that they'd gotten it.
I would go like, well, what do you think happened? They would say exactly what did happen. But with this, like, is that what it is? And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, huh. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's not the time when you want to be unsure, because then you're not thinking about the thing you just learned.
Right.
You're thinking about whether or not you're right and if that's actually what's going on. So you're kind of watching the whole thing in a bit of like a confused state, even though you did get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the effect that we intended it to have.
Yeah, it's sort of like people intellectually maybe got it, but not emotionally. There wasn't any
Yeah, that's another
satisfaction
way of saying
in
it.
getting it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difficulty with editing, is that when something is new, it's obviously enticing, right? If you come up with a new idea in the edit, it's very hard to get your mindset around the fact that it is something new. So you might think it's really good at the time, or just really interesting at the time because you've seen everything else
Because it's
50
just
times.
different.
And you're like,
It's
wow, this is
fresh.
cool. This is
Yeah.
new.
Suddenly you're able to see it and feel something,
Right.
even though it might not be the best thing.
Yeah, you get blinded a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I think is the hard part about editing something large as well, is that you have to kind of step back every once in a while and be like, okay, well, I did this. Let me see if this works, but I kind of got to step away from it a bit and then watch it with kind of old eyes and then go, you know, does this still hold up or does it not hold up? But yeah, I think we have come up with a very different film in a way.
It's more
You know?
like, it's more the original movie.
It's closer to the original movie. It's well, we don't need to talk about it too much, but I'm very excited about the new direction it's taking, although it's a lot of work but I'm calling it the final cut, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know, it's just mentally I'm like, okay, this has to be it. I mean, I just, you know,
Yeah, I think it's going to be really
you never
good.
know.
I think
I've
it's
said that
gonna
like
be
a
really
million times, but yeah, all the information was very helpful and very,
It's like finally we felt like we were given like some kind of like rocket fuel to go the last part of the way.
Yeah.
Where I felt like we were really like stalling towards the end of that cut. Constantly second guessing everything, constantly changing everything.
I mean, I didn't feel that way. I felt like I got to that point in the cut. I felt good about it. But I think my issue was it was just something new. And it sounded good. Every time I explained it to somebody as well, what the idea was, they were like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But they just didn't get that from the film. And I think that's the hard thing to separate too. It's like you're putting intention into something, and it's hard to know how much of that intention people are going to be able to pick up.
What I meant by stalling wasn't that we weren't excited about the version we sent out. It was that was like the third or fourth fine cut that we had like said, all right, this is it.
Oh yeah,
and then it changed three more times afterwards.
Yeah. So that's being worked on kind of now, although not really.
Well, this is the other main point, which is the finding new jobs.
Yeah. I think I was kind of talking to my mom about it yesterday. I think the thing that happened is, and it's not a bad thing, I think you had your baby during the summer. You had Oscar. And I was working on Boris and Johan, which means nobody was trying to get new jobs at that time. And I think what we found is, so right now we're doing the thing of acquiring new clients.
Yeah, which takes
but on average, it takes like 4 or 5 months for those jobs to kind of be done, right? Because people make a film and they say, okay, perfect, we want it by next March. So there is this sort of like 4 to 5 month gap from, putting yourself out there, acquiring new clients, to having a finished product. And if you look 4 or 5 months back now, it's exactly when we weren't focusing on that.
Yeah.
So it all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not like a surprise. It's just, it's actually happening the way that it it would have been amazing if it had suddenly become, the process would have suddenly sped up or something.
Yeah.
But it's how it was the first and the second time around. It just takes a little while.
It's just part of the business. You got to sit down. You got to email.
Network.
Yeah. And it's very...
But even to build off of the fact that I had a baby and you were working on Boris and Johan, then when I started working again, I was working on my script.
Yeah.
You were still working on Boris and Johan.
Yeah.
And then when I finished my script, that's when you went on your...
The Kungsleden.
3.5 week hike.
Yeah.
And I was editing the videos from last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which still isn't new jobs.
Right.
So that's literally like a 4-month...
A massive chunk.
Where we were in no way actively looking for new clients.
Right.
We were either purely working on old things or working on our personal projects.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, so we're looking for new jobs now, and it's going really well, I think. There's some exciting stuff on the horizon.
We've got... I feel like we've put in a lot of work, and it's starting to show a little bit. But there is that like feeling at one point where it's like, oh my God, we're like really sending out a lot of stuff, creating content for people and just not hearing back. And you're like, oof.
Well, what we had kind of said is that like, okay, the first thing we tried was just hard, just email as many people as you can find, introduce yourself, show them the reel, even DM people, and see if you get a response from companies that we do not know at all.
Yeah, we have no connection
to whatsoever. It's a cold call or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
And we found that really doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think it's worked once for us.
But it has worked.
Has it?
It worked with Souls.
That's why I said it worked once.
Yeah, and then I think now a second time.
With who?
The guys we met with yesterday. Kind of.
No, but see, that's the thing. That's where I disagree. So then we'll get to that.
No, you're right.
So the cold calling it's worked once out of, I want to say probably like over 100 times.
Yeah. Which maybe it doesn't sound like that much, but it's also like we do have a...
And it worked, but we also did a ton of extra work to make it work.
Yeah.
It got us a meeting.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is all we want.
Which is, I guess, that's true.
Once you get that, then...
It helps.
the success rate jumps dramatically.
Yeah.
No, but what I was going to say was 100 maybe doesn't sound like that much, but I feel like it sounds like a lot to me, because we do have like it's not just anyone and everyone that we want to work with.
Yeah.
It's people who we feel like we could actually offer something of value to and are in the right kind of
Yeah.
range of someone who both has money to spend
Yeah.
and
100 is a ton because we also don't mass email. We write every email
Individual.
specifically to a
so
company.
you research the company,
Yeah.
you figure out something that you have in common with them, figure out what part of our portfolio is
Right.
relevant,
Right.
send that, highlight certain things.
Right. But
Yeah, anyways.
in my opinion, it wasn't working.
No, that totally wasn't.
And it's then we said, okay, well, what if we do something for the company?
Some free content.
Something small
value.
that doesn't take up a ton of time, but that we could sort of send to the company so that they could get the sense that like, oh, these guys have at least, they committed a little bit of time to us. Let's give them a meeting at least. Let's talk to them. So we made these kind of one pages that were designed specifically for each company.
Well, we came up with a video idea for the company.
Yeah.
Like totally in the dark. All we had was their social media profiles and their websites to go off of
Yeah.
in terms of trying to come up with something that we felt like would be on brand and also new
For that company.
for something like a commercial.
Right. And then we'd Photoshop a nice page. Graphically looks very nice. We'd write the idea onto that one page. So they're kind of sent this
It's like a pitch.
this PDF of a pitch, right? That has their company on it, that has our company on
It's
it,
a
that has a
visual
nice
pitch.
design,
Yeah.
and has writing on it. And I want to say we did about 6 or 7 of those.
Yeah.
Also didn't go anywhere.
And that
I don't think we heard from a
it takes
single
a whole
person.
day to make one of those.
It'd take a whole day.
Well, to come up with the idea.
Yeah,
fine-tune it. I mean, some of the ideas we'd recycle, but we'd still then have to go in and change all the colors and the
Yeah.
actual branding part of it.
Yeah.
I'd say that all took like a week.
So we tried that. That didn't fucking work. And it's like, how the fuck do you talk to these companies? How do you get their attention? Because half the time you're also emailing through customer service, which means someone is going, all right, I'll hand it off to Jeff in marketing.
Yeah.
And then you never hear from Jeff in
Which
marketing.
I feel like half the time has got to be something they just tell people.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that with the...
Or it gets sent, but it's like those they don't need us. That's the thing. Yeah. We need to be able to sit there and say, this is why you should work with us. Mm. If it's just on someone's desk as like a little post-it note, like, hey, these guys called. It's like, we know a production company. We don't fucking need a production company. We work with a fucking, I feel like we kind of need to get into the room to explain an idea and to show, why it's better to work with us and what we can provide and how we can.
I think there's definitely the initial issue is that thing of not having the right contact to send the stuff to.
Yeah.
So it gets sent to the wrong people who don't know what to do with it or don't have any power. And so it's often easier to just not do anything about it. And so it gets lost
right
in that, you send it to info at blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it's like, who's going to see that?
Right.
And I think the hard part is like picking up the phone and calling and talking and figuring out who can I send this thing to.
Yeah.
For some reason, I personally find that very difficult. And I was really like trying to think, because I do have this fear of talking to strangers, I think.
Yeah.
That's
uncomfortable.
I get nervous about it, and it's like you're trying to sell someone something, and it's very obvious that you're trying to sell someone something, and that feels very, almost like confrontational in a weird way.
Yeah.
So I get very uncomfortable, but I was trying to think, it feels like it's deeper than that, because I was like, I really hope, I'd be sitting there with the phone, waiting for it to call. I'm like, I really hope they don't put me through to the marketing team. And I was like, why do I hope that? And I was like, because I am not prepared. I'm not prepared for it whatsoever. I have no real sense of what I should say. And I think that for me is something way more scary. The idea of sounding either stupid or saying something that's not true, or kind of stumbling over my own words, not being prepared to talk to the person who can actually do something.
Yeah.
So what I did was I wrote like a calling script, which I feel like I'm still like, I hope we can use that in the future, because I feel like that really mentally helped me just doing it. I went through and I used like online sources, and I read a marketing book as well. No, a sales book.
Okay.
And I looked up the guy who wrote that and looked up his tips for what to do. And it's just like small little things about, don't be overly don't say your first and last name. Just say like your first name and where you're from, and that you're looking to reach this person, instead of like announcing who you are and what exactly it is you're trying to do. And it's like almost overwhelming and intimidating for the other person. Just small things like that. And then also just having thought maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead, because I'm not a salesperson. And it became very clear that it's like, people like go to school for this and study this, and this is like their job, is how to do sales. And people are like really good at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not me. I need as much help as I can possibly get.
Yeah.
So just being like, okay, they aren't able to put me through to the marketing team. What do I say? That's fine. Would you be able to provide me with an email? I'd love to send some content that we've been working on.
Yeah.
They give the email. Great. Then I have that.
Yeah.
If they do put me through to the marketing team, like, what do I say? Do I straight away say what I'm looking for, or do I ask them questions, or like, what do I do? So I like went through and I tried to come up with scenarios and kind of branch off into, okay, well, if they say yes to this or no to this, then what do I say next? So that I felt like I had somewhere to go with the call. My like worst fear was for them to be like, I'm not quite sure. I'm probably not the right person to talk to, and for me to be like, okay, well, sorry, I'll bye.
Okay, bye.
I should have something to be like, oh, no problem. Can I call back later, or do you have someone who you can refer me to, or an email? Small things like that.
Yeah.
Just having thought it through. So I feel like part of the cold emailing thing is that you need to have the right contact. And to get that contact, you need to know someone so that you can.
That's what I'm getting at.
I know. But I think the next best thing, which if you literally don't know anyone, would be to try and pick up the phone and call and that way get in, which I think we definitely haven't done enough of. But I'm on your side in terms of the next thing you're about to say.
I am. So then after doing the one sheets and everything, and you tried to call somebody. I don't know actually what happened with that. Got an email.
Yeah, I was given an email.
Right.
And that turned into nothing.
Right. And I think part of the issue with calling as well is that if we don't have a meeting set up, you can only do so much prep before it becomes, because if you spend 2 hours thinking of an idea, or probably longer, 3-4 hours thinking of an idea, to really flesh it out and then call the company, and then for them to say, well, we actually don't need a video, but thanks. It's like, but if you only spend 30 minutes thinking of an idea, sort of like, that could go somewhere, call the company. Then I think you get the fear of like, if they're like, yeah, what's it about? You're like, oh, well, it's kind of this, you want to be like, well, let's have a meeting now that I know there's a tiny bit of interest. We'll kind of sink our teeth into this idea and come up with something. I find that the sort of like, even if you get through, it's like, how much time do you spend on coming up with the idea? How much time do you spend on? Because it totally feels like a waste if you do 7 ideas and you've spent a week
for sure
reaching out to people and ideas that are just don't go anywhere.
Well, that was like one of my first things that I was like, don't over the phone try to explain the idea.
Yeah.
That is not the point of this phone call.
Let's have a meeting. Yeah.
Get the email to send the thing you've been working on.
Yeah.
Or to set up a meeting. Don't try to start like, well, imagine this. And they're like, wait, how?
Right.
What are we doing right now?
Then we went to a trade show, which was your idea. And it was called Veggie World. And we said, okay, well, let's go there. It's all companies that kind of align with our company as well. It's sort of this vegan trade show to do with anything felt like vegan, eco-friendly companies that kind of are
It's like food brands. It was mostly food.
it's mostly food, but then there was also like a plastic period cup company or supplements or
Personal trainers,
a podcast.
Podcasters.
And we went there, and as soon as we got there, I think both of us were very uncomfortable.
It quickly became very clear what kind of a trade show it was beforehand. There's just a website. We've never been to a trade show before. That says all of these brands and companies are going to be there. Buy a ticket, and you can come.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know more than what, I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
Like, what are they there for? And it became very clear as soon as we walked in that this was open to the public.
Yeah.
For people to come in, taste products, and buy them on the spot.
Right.
Kind of like a massive supermarket where everything's on discount and you can talk to the actual companies themselves. Right. As well as, I think, people who own supermarkets and stuff could come and see, what new products do we want to sell in our shops?
Yeah. Kind of it felt like that, but not really. It felt just like
tiny
regular Joe Schmoes.
And I was hoping it would be that.
Yeah, that's what I thought
I was hoping that
too.
it would be a place to network between businesses and that people like us would be there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was that at all.
And that everybody would be asking each other, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Oh, I'm a graphic designer.
Right.
Oh, I'm a...
Everyone there is trying to...
No, it was there. You're there to taste the food.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
It's like a bit of it's just an event.
Yeah.
Here's an event. Here's a couple companies. There was even talks going on and stuff.
It was really cool. I thought it was very cool to see how big it was.
Yeah, it was cool.
I thought I was surprised at like the location of it. I was like, this is going to be in like a small little room.
Oh, really?
Like a couple of things. But it was like a huge hall in like the center of Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. And to see that many stands, I was like, oh, this is like a big, big thing.
So we went there and we I think I said, okay, we got to make like a game out of this because we're kind of walking around. We're kind of like,
oh, this tofu tastes good. Like, what's in it?
Yeah.
And he answers you. And then you're like,
tofu.
Oh, okay, bye.
What about videos?
Dude, that's such a weird thing to suddenly jump to, especially when there are other, what I would call customers, standing around wanting to buy stuff.
Right.
You'd be like, no, don't talk to the people who are trying to buy the food right now. Talk to me about me trying to sell you
something.
And it felt so weird at times.
Yeah. So we did this kind of bet and said, okay, well, let's just see whoever can push out more business cards. You take half, I take half. What I found at the end of the day was that the only people I actually connected with is people that I had a tiny connection with before Veggie World. There was two people I kind of, in my head, I was like, fuck, I think I know this company from something.
Yeah.
And I went up to them, and having that to start the conversation then makes the conversation so much easier to kind of turn into something like, hey, let's collaborate. Let's do something together. Let's, I know you from here, blah, blah, blah. I think the one guy even asked us I think both people actually asked for our business card. Oh, you guys have a business card, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's the perfect conversation. Like, you're not even pushing anything on them. At the end of the day, they're asking you like, hey, give me your email. I'll contact you. We're interested. And both those things have turned into further jobs. And I think the whole thing, this whole experience is just showing me how important it is to maybe not spend your time looking at all the people you don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Is to more look at the people you already know and see who's branched out from those people. Mm-hmm. Who can I contact and say, hey, I know we've got a mutual friend. Let's talk. Because it's way more likely that they're going to be like, oh, great. Yeah, I know that person. And yeah, we get along and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, let's have a meeting. Let's make that work.
Even as thin of a connection as this. So I went up to this stand selling milk.
Yeah.
Pea protein milk.
Yeah.
And it had a really cool brand. And it wasn't super busy like some of the other ones.
Right.
Oh, hang on. So I went up to this plant milk stand
and
started talking, and again, it was all about the milk. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what is it? And why
Yeah.
is it different? What does this one do? And I tasted it. And I was like, oh, that's actually really good. And I happened to not have milk for my breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
So I bought one. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to leave because it was one of those where I felt like it wasn't appropriate to make that leap.
Yeah.
Because there were other people who were like, oh, what is this? And I felt like then
You're like, it's fucking pea milk. Move on.
yeah, move on. And then I went and I did something else. I talked to you about something, and then I was like, okay, he's by himself now. I'm gonna go back. And I went, this, because I really did like it.
Yeah.
I said, I really like this milk, and I said, I'm actually here because I have a production company, and I'm hoping to work with someone whose product I think we could do something with. He's like, oh, okay, cool. And we started talking, and he's like, actually, we've been looking for videos, and then it felt good, and then at one point he's like, wait, why are you speaking English? Because he was Swedish, and I had already just spoken Danish to him.
Right.
And I find it kind of difficult to understand what Swedish people say.
Right.
So I just started speaking English when I went back the second time. And he's like, well, why don't you speak Danish? I was like, well, I've lived abroad and gone to international schools. He's like, oh, international schools? Like, what international schools? And I said the international schools. I was like, oh, my son went to an international school too, the Cobham one. And
Yeah.
you've probably played sports together. And we happened to be like a year apart. And I was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
He's like, ah, cool. He's like, do you have a business card?
Yeah.
Like right when that happened, he switched from, I don't know if he was just being polite or if he was already interested.
Yeah.
To giving me his business card and asking for one in return. So just some obscure little thing that you happen
Some connection.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing, and the thing I hate the most about trying to sell something, especially like in that setting where it's like, let's just try to get people our business card.
Mm-hmm.
You go up to a stand.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give a shit about the stand. I'm like, what? I don't care. It's not trying to be mean or anything, but it feels so like disingenuous of me to come up, try to make a conversation about something.
No, you have to
And then-
really be honest. Like you have to actually find something you like.
Right,
And
exactly.
If you can't, it's like,
What's the point?
too bad. Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit with some of the companies we've reached out to.
Yeah.
If I really think about it, I'm like, I don't care about this. If they came up and said, hey, do you guys have an interesting idea? I could start to care about it.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to want to sell something to somebody that
Mm-hmm.
to get that connection with somebody. And then it shows you how easy it is when you do care about a product. We just talked to a company yesterday where I think we both really like their product. And it just flows. And I think it comes through you that you like this product. You want to work for not work for the product, help the company out, do a collaboration, actual collaboration, try to see what you guys can do together because you want to be a part of their company a little bit. You like the thing, you want to promote it.
Yeah.
And it just makes it so much
I'm very
easier.
excited about this new client.
Right. And even that
Can we talk about who they are? I mean, I don't feel like that's weird at all.
No, I don't think it's weird. It's Christiania Bikes.
Yeah. So Christiania Bikes is like massive in terms of people who know about it in Copenhagen. It's like when you go to a Copenhagen tourist shop, you can buy an I Love Copenhagen shirt or you can buy one with a Christiania bike on it. Like, that's how
cargo bikes are really
it's a
popular
thing, and they're the original.
Copenhagen. Yeah.
And see that this one is also interesting because this was the one where I was like, oh, but this was someone we reached out to out of the blue, kind of like a cold call. But you're totally right. It's not.
No, it's not.
For those of you who remember, our Christiania bike got stolen back in October last year.
Yeah.
And then it got returned like 4 months later.
Yeah.
I got a call from someone working at Christiania Bikes saying, hey, we just had a bike dropped off and we called the police and it says it's registered to your name. Is that right? And I was like, yep, I'm going to be there straight away. And they gave me the bike back. And then afterwards I was like, maybe I should like write them.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, we do videos. We'd be happy to give you a discount, to say thanks. And he's like, oh, that's really interesting. We're actually looking for that at the moment. I'll think about it. And then that turned into nothing. And then like 6 months later, while we're doing this, reaching out to people, I was like, well, that's someone who at least at one point expressed interest. I wrote him again. He's like, yeah, still interested. Can you meet on this day?
Yeah.
I didn't even have to ask for a meeting. And then we did. And now we have a job.
Yeah. And something we love.
Yeah.
You know,
and
I
it's
really like those bikes.
It is. It's cool, and it's cool ideas we've got.
And it
We've
makes
got
it
a couple
easier.
of different ideas. We're gonna start with the first one and see how it goes.
Yeah. And then finally, we also went to this YouTuber event on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sort of a get together
Oh my gosh.
of.
I've never been to a YouTube meetup.
Yeah, me neither.
So there's this YouTube channel called Yes Theory, and I follow them on Instagram, and so does my brother. And he wrote me one morning saying, "Hey, Yes Theory is in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And they're doing an event."
Yeah.
And because we're doing all these things and going to all these different,
Yeah.
we
it out.
went one event. We went there.
But you had a good point because you were like, oh, you know, there's this thing. And then I was kind of like, meh, it's going to suck. You know?
Yeah.
And you're like, Taylor, you're always talking about how you want to be social and do things.
Yeah.
Here's a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And right away, I was like, okay, we're going.
Yeah.
Let's go. We went.
We went climbing first, which was fun.
We went climbing first. Then we went to the event.
Bike through the rain to get there.
The event was what I thought, right? It wasn't my thing. It wasn't
No, and I was
where I would
annoyed
go.
because it was what I was hoping it wouldn't be.
But what did come out of it is that the company that hosted the event,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I like their product. Let's just fucking write them. Again, because we have, and Yes Theory is a bit of a, I actually, you know what? The end part of it, I actually did like the event a
I
little
started
bit.
to like it. The first half, because we went there not knowing what it was about.
Yeah.
They just said, hey, fuck me.
Jesus Christ.
I was saying that.
At the end of the event, you said originally.
I was saying that on the Instagram story, it just
Yeah.
said, hey, if there's anyone who wants to come to this event, be at this location at 7:30 tonight.
Yeah.
And we'll be there.
Yeah.
And then it gives you no indication of what it is. It even said it's not a meetup. So we might not be able to meet everyone. As in, it's not just like a, hey, let's, hang
Yeah.
out and just
Yeah.
talk. So it felt like you're kind of going, you're like, well, what is this going to be about?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. Excuse me. But by the end, I think what I said at the end, I was like, what is happening to these people here? And a little bit to ourselves as well. This idea that you shouldn't really give a shit about what other people are thinking, or,
Yeah.
you should just kind of put yourself in
Shut up.
uncomfortable positions. I think what's their slogan? Seek discomfort.
Yeah, which we obviously.
Which I totally agree. And I think
Try to live by.
Yeah, we did the fear setting. There was like a lot of similarities I could kind of see
For
between
sure.
our mentality
I
and
think
theirs.
maybe that's why at first I wasn't so into it, was because I feel like we're already kind of doing a lot of those things. So I
Right.
didn't feel like I needed an inspirational pick-me-up.
I watch Jim and Andy if I need to get any of
Which
that.
it kind of was.
Yeah.
It was an interesting story. I mean, it was
Well,
about.
it gets a little bit huggy at some. It gets a little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. But then I was also
But
like,
it wasn't the worst thing, because
No.
by the end they were like, okay, everybody hold hands. And then
Yeah.
in my head I was like,
Oh.
fuck it, don't be the guy who's like awkward.
Yeah.
And I turned around right away and I was like, okay, let's do it, whatever.
oh, someone did that to me, and then I was like, yeah, like why the fuck aren't you just doing that?
Yeah, I feel like otherwise. And then they're like, okay, everyone hold each other's hands. And right away, I also thought in my head, I'm not gonna awkwardly. Like, I'm gonna let's do this. And then they're like, okay, close your eyes and think about.
All the people who've told you you can't do something.
Yeah.
Everyone who doubted you.
Right.
Your first grade teacher
Yeah.
who made you feel silly when you couldn't read out loud.
Yeah.
And all these things.
All these things.
And I was like, all right, I'm gonna think about this.
I tried. I genuinely couldn't think of anything, but closing the eyes helped. And then they were like, okay, we're all gonna scream as loud as you can, right? Which is just an odd thing to do. You're already holding hands with people you don't know. Then you're just gonna scream.
Yeah.
Feels a little Tony Robbins-y. But I'm like, okay, fuck it, here we go. And then you scream, and there is this like endorphin kind of,
Yeah, it did work.
There's a bit of a thing, and you're more likely afterwards to kind of look at the person next to you
And laugh.
and be like, we kind of know each other now, a little bit.
We held hands.
Yeah. I could start a conversation with you now if I
Yeah,
wanted to. It wouldn't
yeah,
be weird.
For sure.
Anyways, that whole thing, it didn't turn into anything. But afterwards,
Well,
I was like,
we met a couple. I mean, we met someone.
yeah, if that turns into something, I will fucking eat my own underwear, whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some
You
there
never
was some
know.
networking. And yeah, afterwards, right, the company that hosted the event. I think the CEO of that company was there as well, although I couldn't see shit because I'm shorter
Tiny.
than half the Danes. And wrote them afterwards, and we said, "Hey, we were just at this event. I love your company, actually. You know, if you ever need videos, we see you already have videos.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ever need anything different, let us know. You know, we're here. Here's our reel." Next day, you know, guy writes back, "Love the reel," sending it on to the marketing guy. And then he sent an email between me and the marketing guy
So
saying,
now you have the marketing guy's email.
yeah, I have the marketing guy's email.
Which is that's the
Right,
main
exactly.
thing.
That's the main thing.
That's the big difference.
And
is
he's
when
saying,
you
you know, here's the
connected.
video. It's cool. They said they really like blah, blah, blah. And also said something like, "I know you're always looking for people to work with when we need projects. Look at these guys." And it's like, you just need... I swear to God, if we had just emailed them without the opening line of like, "Hey, we were just at this event that you guys were at yesterday,"
Yeah.
I don't know if
hard
that
to
would have
know.
gone anywhere.
I think
You know,
I think you might
and
be
I think
right.
history proves it probably.
Well,
I mean,
that's
it might
why
have. You know, 1 in 100. Obviously, every
Yeah.
once in a while it happens.
Yeah.
It just increases
But
your
you're right.
chances.
The history does strongly point towards that being the case.
Right. And that's where we're at. So I think that's why things have gotten better. It was looking a little dreary at one point.
Well, it wasn't. I've never thought about it as jury. I've always thought about it as it's just an unknown. Because you can't point to this and this specific thing that's happening. It's like, to me, it's not that it wasn't going to happen, as it's clearly turning out that these things are happening.
No.
It's that now you can actually just, you know, when someone else asks you, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
You can say this, and this, and not just, "Oh, nothing at the moment. We're working on it."
No, I think dreary for me in the sense that like I sometimes find myself doing things like when we're writing companies cold calling, and they're companies I'm not that crazy about. And then you kind of see the bigger picture and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? Where is this going? Why am I limiting myself to that? Why am I even contacting companies that I actually don't want to work with? Just because I'm getting a little bit panicked and I feel like we need to get some more clients. You're starting to broaden your horizon a little bit, but it's this whole thing of like, well, that's not going to help. I mean, you're not going to be able to come up with a great idea for a company so you're like,
No, it definitely doesn't make sense to contact people you wouldn't be excited about working
or you try to convince yourself. I mean, at least for me, you know, some of the companies I thought were really cool, and I was like, I would love to work for these.
Mm-hmm.
And some I was just kind of like, yeah, I could see something, you know, which is just, it's nice to get out of that.
But yeah, we've got a lot of leads now, like, and leads mean that there's interest that's been expressed.
Yes.
And even budgets have been discussed.
Budgets have been discussed, and we've got meetings up the yin yang. You know?
Yeah.
I kind of had a moment yesterday where we had a meeting, and I walked out, and I was like, you know, a year ago, that would have been a huge thing for me. To go to a company that you don't know, pitch an idea, sell the idea.
For them to literally say, "Yeah, we want that."
Yeah. And then walk out. And it's like, you feel like a kid, you're not, you know, I got my big boy pants on. I'm going to a meeting and we're doing it. We're doing something, which we've done before, but for some reason it felt like.
Well, these are a step up in terms of who they are as well.
Yeah. And we don't know them, and there's no, you know, it just
had that
felt
stolen
satisfying.
bike thing in common.
Yeah, exactly. Off of that, I think just quickly we can kind of go into, you know, another goal for us has been the office, getting an office as a company.
First podcast we talked about.
Yeah,
this.
the first podcast. I mean, the whole first season on YouTube was about getting an office. That was supposed to be kind of the main first goal of the season, and then season 2 would start as soon as we were in the office.
Because the office both represents something and
solves a ton of
facilitates
issues.
something.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. It's like we had a long conversation about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Where it was, I feel like I look at the office as a tool, not as a reward. It's like having an office and having a space to be able to run the business out of is a massive tool to help in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like that would be cool. Like, yeah, it would be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But that's not why it's important, you know?
For me, it's like half-half, you know. I see it as a massive tool. I also see it as a massive just step up in terms of like a life step,
like that.
you know?
For sure. But I think we were maybe a little bit slightly looking at it in a little bit of a different way where I was like, I feel like it's almost like a necessity.
Yeah.
And you were looking at it a little bit more with that'll be like a step, like a thing to do.
I think maybe the way to say it is that we are a little bit split. I think not split, but slightly off in terms of you think getting an office would solve some issues for our company right now where we're bottlenecking, which means getting the office itself would end up paying for the office itself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a huge, it would allow us to grow financially and literally the business. Like
exactly.
And we'd be able to hire another person.
Which I totally agree with. And then I think I'm just a little bit like, yeah, but that period from getting the office to it paying for itself makes me very reliable on people outside of myself, right? Is a risk that we would be taking at a time where the company's not rolling in the bucks and we have this kind of cushion. And I know our whole idea is about like not having a cushion, but I'm willing to risk everything for myself. But as soon as I think in my head, oh my God, if I had to start asking somebody else for help every month until this thing kind of figured itself out, I don't like that.
I'm not on that train either.
Yeah. Which means
it's just a different way of thinking about it. Like, yeah, we can't do it right now.
Yeah.
But I guess I just see it. I think we agree on it. That's
we
why
do.
It's just a slightly different way of wording it. That I'm like, this is something that has to happen.
Yeah.
And it needs to happen soon. So we need to do everything we can to be able to do it. Not, it'll be nice once we can do that, and that'll be fun. I just see it as much more of like everything we're doing, all these jobs we're getting, is to be able to do that. So that it can
I agree.
Grow from that point on. I know we agree.
And there was
You can come.
Come on down. The office. I think there was just kind of a unnatural time thing because I was thinking of moving out of my place.
Yeah, so this is an important part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was
like,
just this time where I was like, I'm moving. I need to find a new place. You know, if you go to a new place, it means I'm going to be there for the next 8 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Because I got to sign a lease. Can we get the office to happen? Because I don't want to have another year of like just a shitty living situation. So I really wanted it to work.
Yeah. Well,
but then it's like you're forcing it in the situation where it's like.
That's when you start to get into hypotheticals.
Right.
About like, maybe we could, we could make it work, but then there'd be a lot of things out of our control. And we wouldn't know what would happen. And it just felt a little
it's
too
more money.
soon.
It's somewhere else. How do you commute? How far can it be? What is available? How long does it take to find?
And that price point that we were looking at was just like a little too little. Like everything that we kept finding was just like, okay, it has some of the things we want, but it's like kind of far away.
Yeah.
Or it's close, but it's tiny. And it's like, well, is that much better than what it is right now? And it's like, it just makes sense to wait a little bit so that we can actually make
a proper move.
Jump.
And so what I'm going to try to do.
And be able to benefit from it in the way that it's meant to.
Yeah. Is talk to my roommate and see if I can stay for like another 4 months.
Yeah.
And if that's possible, then just hold off and kind of see where we are in 4 months and go from there.
Well, we were saying that let's make it a goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think it always has been a goal, but we need something
let's
kind
make
of
it
concrete.
This is specifically what we're aiming towards.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
start looking for it because it's something we talked about, but only like this week have we actually started thinking about what that actually means.
Right. Because it is possible. It's just getting the jobs to a certain point, getting income to a certain point where it's like, you know what? This is consistent. This is how we can do it. This is how we can keep paying for it. There's also a lot of perks to living. We're kind of thinking that I would be living in half of that apartment and half of the apartment would be the office.
Yeah.
With, like we were saying, it also doesn't make sense to get a tiny fucking room as an office, because then if we ever want to expand, which I think would be relatively soon, to add a third person or a fourth person, then it's like, well, now we got to move again.
Yeah, no, you got to think about that kind of stuff.
Kind of trying to balance everything. So very exciting about the office. Bummer that it didn't work out, although not really a bummer because it will work out in 4 months.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm literally gonna explode.
I think we'll burn our boats.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah.
We'll use the momentum of the next couple of months.
I think it's a good thing to have, because it even means that, like, maybe if we're like, ooh, we want another light or something.
Yeah.
That we go, well,
yeah,
we're trying to.
Oh, you mean probe?
You can kind of have like stuff in the back of your head of like, we're trying to save for this thing now. Which, like you said, if we can get there, it opens up all this extra time on our hands, extra everything, all around better. Although I don't want to shit on the office right now because I think it's a great office.
One thing, I think there has been part of me that has been like, okay, let's just like hold out in the office we're in now and just like get through it.
Yeah.
Or I think we can actually make a couple of changes to it.
Yeah.
To make it better so that we can, like, some of the things we were like, oh, we'd be able to do this and that. I was like, well, we could probably do some of those things just here, like hanging stuff up on the walls in there, like getting a charging station going, like just fucking tidying it up.
Yeah, tidying would be a good step. I mean, but it's still limiting to me.
No, 100% it's limiting, but there's a couple of things where I was just like,
make it better.
Well, why don't I just make, like, that would be nice to be able to hang up the beat boards. I've never thought about being able to do that.
If we can hang up 2 beat boards,
that's something.
It's something.
I mean, it's something more than what we're doing.
Gotta stand on your chairs to change anything.
Yeah, but you get my point of, I just never thought about, it just is what it is now.
Oh, I see.
We could just take down that whole part of the wall, as in like where we hang podcast stuff. I mean, it's not fucking hanging there.
Yeah.
It's just an empty board.
Yeah.
We could use that space and hang up a beat board there if we wanted to.
Yeah.
I've just never thought about
maybe move some stuff around.
Improving it because it's always been like, oh, it's temporary.
It's temporary.
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah. So that is that.
And like a charging station. Let's do that.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, but we've always been like, oh, it'd be so nice to be able to do a charging station.
I think
we can.
Moving the computers a little bit would be nice. I would like to put a petition for that.
How do we do that?
Just move your chair a tiny bit out further.
Oh, me move further away?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Just so I can move a tiny bit and get a little bit of space here for something.
Okay.
Petition. Maybe we'll have a little box of petitions
of
things we want to change.
And there's a bunch of shit on the desk that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely make it better. Although a big part for me, which I had talked to you about as well, is that I think having the office be somewhere where I live would make it, because I've told you, I feel like work and my film right now are like 80 to 90% of my existence, but I really only have access to it 50% of the time. So I feel like 40% of my time is kind of this weird, like trying to work on it.
Yeah, what do you do?
Huh?
What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do in those 40% of the time?
It's like all kinds of shit that's out of alignment that I think just kind of puts me in a... I mean, I literally go from one closet to another closet.
Yeah, so
I live out of closets.
What I mean is, like, what do you do when you leave here?
All kinds of things.
Like, do you actually like work on things, or is it more like
I think it depends.
free
It
time,
depends.
free time, whatever that means?
It depends on what we're doing. So if I'm like in the middle of Boris and Johan,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my time is spent either like watching a cut that I've exported for myself, trying to figure out where the cut's gonna go. But it's like this, where it's unaligned. It's like I literally sit there, watching it,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't change anything. So it becomes
just
this
like
roundabout
write notes,
way of like I take down notes and then I come into work and then I talk to you about it and then I change it and then it's just like this very like odd way to work sometimes. Where obviously if I just had the computer in front of me, I would just change it right then and there. Or like I've said a lot of times, I kind of get a second wind at some point when I'll like do an Instagram edit, which is kind of me just being like, I just want to do something right now. And I have Photoshop on my computer, so I'm going to do this. It's kind of a total waste of time. You know, I think it helps in some ways. It's sort of on an abstract level, it helps our company and blah, blah, blah. But those are those spurts of like creativity or something that I think would be better used if I had kind of access to what I'm working on at the moment. Or just the computing power. You know, and I think just being around the thing that you care about so much and what I want to work on, as opposed to around what I'm around now, which just isn't quite that. It's just like, it's just a weird. But I also want to say, because otherwise I'm going to go down into the fucking deeps, I will not complain about my living. You will not hear me complain about my living situation until then, let's say like March. If I'm saying I'm staying for another 4 months,
Okay.
it doesn't help. You know, it doesn't make anything better. I think it actually kind of just, in a weird way, is like, yeah, it sucks, so I'm just gonna let it suck. Whereas I could do things to make it better, right?
That's what I was getting at with The Office, because I had the same mindset. I was like, it's annoying.
Yeah.
But there are little things we can make better.
Right.
To make it better.
So like
So I'm down with that.
Exactly. You're never gonna hear me complain about it again. Mark my words.
Okay.
And in November, I feel like I've already started, because I already had this just getting very down on that situation.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, you can either just sit here for another, and just mope,
Yeah.
or you could try to start changing things. So I am trying to change things, and it's been going pretty darn good. But I'm also trying to do the thing.
What are you trying to change?
This is the exact thing.
You got to tell me now.
No,
Oh,
I will
what
tell
the
you.
fuck? What?
It'll be like I'll tell you at the end of November, kind of. I'm kind of doing this thing. I haven't told anybody. I like the idea of like, let me see if I can just say I'm going to do something, and I just kind of follow through and commit to
You have
that.
to be completely honest if you don't do it then.
Yeah. There's already things that I wanted to do that haven't. It was sort of a lot of things that I wanted to do that I was going to do every single day of November.
Yeah.
And now I've had one day where I kind of didn't do something. So I'll let you know. It's not going like, oh, it's going so perfectly.
Okay.
But the other things are going very well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Just felt like. And the reason I brought that up is because I know you had said you wanted to do a bet.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you want to kind of talk about it.
Yep.
On what you want to do, and we can maybe set a bet for you.
Yep.
Your bet against my mystery bet.
Mystery bet. So after Oscar was born, and after I had to jump ship from doing my Ironman
Yeah.
because of my knee injury and having to take like 2 months off because of that, afterwards it was really hard to get back into it.
Yeah.
Working out and like running and stuff like that, even climbing.
Yeah.
And it's been it's just been so much easier not to start doing it again. I mean, when you went on your hike, I got back into it, and I was like running 3 times a week, and I did for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then as soon as you came back and we started doing like a regular work schedule again, where I couldn't just go for like a run during lunchtime, it started to become difficult again. And I think, so last night I've been rereading a book that had like quite a significant impact on me when I read it originally, like 2 years ago, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, which was a big part of inspiring me to do the trip with my brother. And I'm really enjoying rereading it. And I got to a part where he asks you to stop reading and get out a piece of paper and write down 4 things that you aren't acting on right now that you need to act on. Yeah. I mean, according to yourself. And don't read until you've done that. And part of me was like, I'm going to turn the page and keep reading because I don't want to do that right now. But then I was like, you'd benefit from like just fucking doing that. And so I did last night. Finally, I wrote down, start training for the Ironman again properly. And another part of it was to then, it wasn't just write down what it is. It was to then write, why have you been associating pain with this activity? Because the whole chapter and that whole segment of the book is about, everything is about pain and pleasure. If you're not doing something, it's because you associate more pain than pleasure with it, and vice versa. So if you're doing something, it's because you associate more pleasure with it than pain. Yeah. And I can obviously see that in my life, that there's always like a tipping point at which now this thing that I'm not doing or doing is starting to become so painful that I'm going to, reverse that because it's gotten to a point where it's, too much or whatever. Yeah. And I think it's clear that, training for an Ironman, for me, it's like, it's very much all or nothing. Like, I don't like the idea of like doing a couple of sit-ups and push-ups every morning. Like, I'd like to incorporate that into a bigger training program. But if I want to like work out, I want to like make it something that's for a purpose, and I want to make it like hard and like a real thing, which is like 13, 14 hours a week. And I've just associated a significant amount of pain to spending time away from my small family now. That, I spend time with Oscar in the mornings and in the evenings after work. And so if I were to work out, it would have to be either getting up at like 5 a.m. to go and do something like that, which I have a pretty poor history with that, as in I love the sound of it and I'm able to do it for like a certain amount of time, a month being the most, but it feels like it's just this like what's the like stubbornness thing. I'm just doing it to prove that I can do it, but I fucking hate it, and I always end up quitting after a certain amount of time. But that doesn't mean I can't change the way I look at it, and maybe that is an option. Or it means doing it right after work, running right after work, which would mean then not being able to give him a bath or put him to bed and all that stuff. Yeah. Or I then do it after we've had dinner and we've put him to bed. But that means then I don't spend time with Phoebe. So it's like, it's clear to me why it's this tough thing to be doing. Yeah. It's not like, why am I not doing this? It's such a thing that I love. It's like, I understand why. But that was part of the exercise, was writing down, why do you feel pain when you think about that activity? And then it said, kind of the other side of that was then to write down, well, what have you been enjoying about not doing that activity? Well, those things. I've been spending time with my baby, spending time with my girlfriend, sleeping in the morning, because nights have been a little bit more difficult now with the baby. So I've definitely been enjoying those things. So it's very clear to me why that has been a thing, which is so huge, I think, to think about, because it makes it very, like, understanding why you're acting a certain way is almost everything to me. Yeah. Because then you can think about it, you can comprehend it. It doesn't become like this weird, mysterious, like, why do I feel bad about it? Like, why am I like kind of like depressed about this thing.
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just fucking do it?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then the next day you're like, but I don't want to do it. And you're like, why? Well, because I want to spend time with my family.
Right.
But I also want to do this thing.
Right.
And just having like written it down, you're like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. I'm not like some crazy person. Then it says to write, well, what are you going to lose if you don't start doing this thing now? Like, what effect will it have on your life?
Yeah.
And that was a hard one because it's like, that's the pulling force, right? That's the thing that's making you want to do that activity. So now you've written the stuff that's holding you against it, that's holding you from doing it. Now you got to write the stuff that makes you excited about doing it.
Right.
That stuff like, well, like I said, I feel a little bit like depressed about not doing something that's such a huge part of my life, and just the health aspect of it and the mental clarity that you get from doing those activities. I know you started running a little bit and you said like, oh my God, like it's like a fucking drug.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that all along. It is. It's like it's literally like you change your entire outlook right after you do a hard workout. I feel like I'd start to become bitter and like resentful about my situation. Like, oh, poor me, I can't do the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'd start to become less fun to hang out with. I would become physically unhealthy. Just feel like not confident about myself, because I feel like physical health is a big part of confidence, and how you feel is also how you think about yourself. Yeah, and it's literally a main goal of mine is to run endurance races. Main life goal. So not pursuing that is upsetting.
Yeah.
And then the final step, the fifth step, is to write down all the positive things you will feel if you start this activity again. So it's just the reverse of everything I just said. And you start to feel confident again, sense of control. I'd be able to work harder because I'd have a clear head. I'd be more fun to hang out with and more engaged when I am with my baby and with my girlfriend, because I've done the thing that is clouding my head, and I can focus on it. And I know that is the case. So it's like, sometimes it's easy to forget, but like I can spend 2 hours with them and half the time be feeling a little just like something, like there's something missing. Or I can spend an hour where I'm just like totally present and engaged and happy. I feel like that's better. I don't know.
I would definitely say better.
But it's sometimes hard to quantify.
But there's a difference, no, between being healthy and wanting to run an endurance. I mean, I would just think, if the question is you want to get out and exercise, you could do a super intense 30-minute session.
Mm-hmm.
That might solve that problem, but doesn't necessarily prepare you for Ironman. So then do you question, like, what is the reason you want to do the Ironman? It must be beyond just wanting to be healthy, right?
No, yeah, I think it's the physical and the mental health. I feel like I said, that setting those challenges is what gets me to go out and do those things.
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't get super excited about, like, I like to work towards something, even if it's some kind of abstract thing that you've made up.
Yeah.
Feels like there's a purpose to it. It's almost like tricking your brain into engaging in the activity on a daily basis.
That makes sense to me.
But I think my approach is going to be exactly that, is starting with shorter, like 30-minute, maximum an hour a day, to get back into it. I'm not going to start going on 4 or 5 hour bike rides straight away.
Peace out. You show up at 11 at night.
But it's like, yeah, that's just, you got to sacrifice certain things. And it's like, it becomes very easy to pick what to sacrifice at a certain point.
I guess, we were talking to Espen. He was talking about sacrificing something for...
We're talking about this exact thing.
Yeah, right?
It's got to be fucking worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to sacrifice all this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I feel like it was necessary to write stuff down. And then there's like small silly things like, well, I'd be able to read more audiobooks when I'm out doing these activities.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had to try and write everything down. Everything about the positive and everything about the negative. And then you can like make a decision, and then you can kind of like, maybe the decision would be to, oh, I forgot about all this, and there's a very good reason why I'm not doing that right now. It's not forever. It's a temporary thing. I'm not, and that can almost like be enough. And you can go and continue with what you were doing with the new context a little bit. Like you just remind yourself of, right. It's not just that you're not doing that. It's that you're then able to do this.
Right. It's how it affects.
You're able to spend time doing these other things.
Yeah.
There's not an infinite amount of time.
No, but time is an interesting thing, I think, because even with, I mean, it's a totally different situation, but when I was working on Boris and Johan by myself with my computer at my place, and that's when I kind of started running a little bit, because there was just these massive chunks of just working and editing. And I found that if I broke it up with something that actually took up time, in that period where I left, ran, came home, showered, went back to the computer, my work afterwards would be like, it was so different because first of all, you break up this massive chunks of what usually took me, I don't know, 12, 13 hours in a day. I felt like I was just so much more focused in a way, or had a different perspective all of a sudden, or, not that I suddenly worked faster afterwards, but sort of, I feel like I saved a lot of time in having a new perspective and not going down one closed-minded sort of idea, kind of coming back from something and being like, I know exactly what I need to do now. Fuck this idea. That's not working. That's a weird idea from this morning. We should try this, this, and this. So that thing where you're actually gaining time by doing something else. I don't know if hanging out with a baby is the same thing, but sort of, I mean, being more engaged obviously sounds.
Well, the thing is, he goes to bed at a certain time. So it's like, that's anywhere between 7:30 and 8:30, kind of. Yeah. So it's like, if I were gone from 6 to 7, it's potentially then I only spend 30 minutes with him.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's too little, in my opinion. And yeah, it's like, that's that simple.
Yeah. But maybe waking up earlier, because now it's a necessity more than.
We've talked about that too, and I think that's this is why last couple of mornings I've woken up and been kind of down, is because I have that thought. I'm like, that is the option. That's very available. Yeah. And I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the getting up early thing again. I'm gonna feel fucking awesome about it, because I'm gonna be like a superhero. Yeah. So I'm gonna be able to do all these things, and I'm also working out in the morning. And I wake up in the morning, and I haven't set a goal of doing it that day or anything, but I'll wake up normal time at like 7, and I'll be like, oh my fucking God, there's no way I'm getting up earlier than this. And I'm like, I'm a completely different person. Yeah. And it's like, and I know that feeling, and that's the feeling I feel for a whole fucking month when I'm doing it. But I just do it anyways, because I told you that I would do it. Yeah. And I'm doing a bet. Yeah. I gotta figure out a different way of doing it, because I can get so motivated and so like inspired by the thought of doing that, and it just goes away as soon as the alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m, and you've had kind of you went to bed a little bit later because the baby was up, and it's just, it's not easy, Mads, we know.
No, it's good to. It's interesting. Because I'm sure that's a lot of people in all different ways. Obviously, a lot of people have babies. I'm sure everyone finds a way of how to deal with that as well. Yeah.
I know. And that's another thing. It's temporary. The life I live right now is nothing like the first month when he was born. Yeah. And it will be completely different in 6 months. Like it's constantly changing. Yeah. That's actually a big thing to keep in mind, that it's like, it's not forever. No. sometimes you can feel like that, like with your living situation. You can be like, oh my God, I can't do this.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's a great living situation.
You know, you're not super pumped about your living situation.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You can't deny it. Doesn't mean you can't. Just don't bring it up yourself.
It's hard to see the bigger picture sometimes. It's hard to know. When you look day to day, you can be like, what the fuck am I doing? Is like that microscopic view of you're just seeing the things that are in front of you. You forget why you made the decision to be in that situation. You forget sort of what the long-term goal is, what the benefits of doing it are, all those things can kind of wash away sometimes. And you're just like, the fuck am I doing here? Like, how did this happen? Mm-hmm. And then you get reminded, you kind of got to remind yourself. And then, of course you put yourself in that situation for a reason.
Yeah.
And there's massive benefits to, I don't like the word sacrifice anymore. It sounds like something so like, oh, I'm a martyr, I'm sacrifice,
Yeah.
But sort of, putting yourself in situations that are going to benefit you in the long run.
I feel like I am quite good at maintaining perspective. As in, I feel like I'm good at reminding myself about exactly that, like why you put yourself in this situation, and it's amazing. And it's every so often you start thinking about the thing you're not doing. You're like, well, why am I not doing that? And then it becomes a little bit difficult to remind yourself in those situations, because I think it's also like I said, everything's evolving. So maybe there is a little bit more of a room to be able to put that activity back in to your life. Yeah. And so there has to be a time when you start to, or maybe it is time now to start doing that. Whereas before it was like, oh no, there's definitely not room for that right now. Maybe there is a little bit of room right now. He's been going through a sleep regression phase, which means that he wakes up all the time in the night. And I don't even see we've gone full survival mode this week. Yeah. And he sleeps in the bed. He normally sleeps in his crib, but this week he slept in the bed and I've slept on the couch because it's just one less step in the night to have to take him out of the crib. So for Phoebe, she'd have to get up, pick him up, put him next to her. And that also kind of wakes him up. Yeah. So half of those wake ups can be eliminated by him being in the bed. And so we've been getting a little bit more sleep. Well, I've been getting great sleep because I've been on the couch with the dog. So I've actually really been enjoying that. But it's also like, that's not permanent. Like, and you gotta like think about that. It's like, yeah, this is just what we're doing right now. Yeah. Just to kind of make it work.
So do some people, is that what baby monitors are for at this age as well? Some people would have the baby sleeping in another room.
Yeah, it's very
Is that like the classic movie thing?
It's very
where the couple's
normal
like, oh, it's your turn.
Well, this is, so I don't have boobs, right?
No.
So I can't really feed him.
Yeah.
As in I can't at all.
Yeah.
So Phoebe and I have this agreement that is she gets up in the night and feeds him. Yeah. Which makes sense because I don't have boobs, right? Yeah. So it's not like there's a choice there. But then on the other hand, I'll get up early and take the baby with me. Yeah. And then I'll play with him, and sometimes he falls asleep and he'll sleep on me. But then Phoebe can have anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours of extra sleep in the morning. Yeah. Which I think is, I still think Phoebe does more than me, but I don't really see how we could do it any other way, to be honest. Like if he wakes up in the night and is awake, like he starts like, I want to play. Yeah. Then sometimes she'll wake me up and be like, you need to help me. And I will.
But most of the time he wakes up because he's hungry.
Yeah.
A little snacker.
Phoebe's saying exactly that. He's snacking.
Yeah.
And she's like, just fucking do one big one. Yeah. Not like a little like.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, not so funny.
Okay. Well, do you want to do a bet, or you just like talking about that?
Well, no, I do definitely want to do a bet, but I need to. I think
Get it
I
ready
need
for next
to.
week.
I need to write it down. I haven't had time to write it down. As in, I want to write a training schedule.
Yeah.
And then have to stick to it.
We'll look forward to that next week.
No, I'll give it to you before then.
On the Burning Boat Show.